All righty, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could have a moment of silence, please. Okay, I want to welcome everybody here and everybody's watching or will be watching. Roll call. I'm going to start with Commissioner Culberson.
Here.
Commissioner Cos.
Here.
I'm here. Commissioner Doug Smith.
Here.
And I don't think Mike made it. Okay. Administrative, I don't think we had any public comment from what I could tell, Mark, what Becky said. So I'll go to administrative business. We do have amendment to lease agreement on Cushing Hospital per county counselor. Is that correct?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. This is Dave Van Paris. Presenting to you a proposed amendment to the underlying lease agreement that was entered into between the county and Behavioral Health Sciences, I'll just use that abbreviated term for them, for the renting of space at 711 Marshall, the former Cushing Hospital building. That lease was negotiated and renovation work is ongoing as we speak. In visiting with their legal counsel, he's informed me that due to licensing requirements for that facility to obtain its license, it needs to have an independent status from the other behavioral health sciences locations. The amendment proposes that the underlying tenant be changed from Behavioral Health Sciences, I'll call it the general company, to a subsidiary of Behavioral Health Sciences specific to the location at 711 Marshall. It is a wholly owned subsidiary of the underlying tenant, and I believe that there's as much financial security as we had with the underlying tenant we will have with the new tenant as created by that amendment, and it's really for licensure purposes.
Commissioners, if I could, I believe Commissioner Stephen is calling in.
Okay,
Good
Mike,
morning.
Mike, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you?
Yeah, we just started.
All right. Good morning.
Welcome. Okay, David, anything else on that?
No, I believe that the amendment is appropriate, and again, I believe as much financial security is granted to the county under this amended lease agreement as was provided by the underlying lease agreement.
Okay.
My recommendation or request would be that the board authorize the chairman to execute the amendment.
You ready for a motion?
Yes,
Commissioner
sir.
Cos, does that require a motion?
Yeah, we're getting ready to. Yes, it would, Vicki.
I would move that we allow for the chair to enter into that agreement.
I'll second it.
Motion is second. Any discussion on it? And then I'll start the roll call. Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Stephen?
Aye.
All right. Good to go on that. Mark, did you have any?
One other item from the
Okay,
council.
go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, and I apologize for having to bring this up to you in this fashion this morning. However, I had a conversation with a member of the staff of the Attorney General's office, Kansas Attorney General's office, yesterday morning. He had contacted me, and it's with regards to the opioid litigation settlement proceeds. Recently, a settlement package, I'll caption it as the Jensen settlement package. It's approximately $26 billion. It's been negotiated by various attorneys representing the municipalities, including ours, with the pharmaceutical companies. The agreement is finalized, and we believe will be finalized, provides that that $26 billion be paid directly to state governments that have initiated opioid litigation, to include the state of Kansas. Consequently, when you take that provision, that is that the proceeds would go to the state of Kansas for distribution, and the current Kansas state law, which states that unless a municipality assigns any settlement proceeds from any opioid litigation to the state of Kansas, that municipality cannot receive any state funds. The effect of that would be that we would get nothing of that Jensen settlement money if we do not execute the assignment that had earlier been requested by the state, but that we had discussed and declined due to the fact that we didn't have an idea of what the county might be giving up. In this instance, we now know that there's a proposed settlement that would provide that $26 billion. In discussing this with the Office of the Attorney General, and I did receive an email that I've just forwarded to you recently, but basically what I'm being told is through discussions yesterday, Leavenworth County could anticipate receiving approximately $40,000 to $45,000 per year over the next 18 years that $26 billion settlement would be paid out. That amount could fluctuate up or down based upon the structure of the settlement and is also dependent on the number of Kansas counties that would request state funds, since the distribution formula is based proportionally on population. So roughly 18 years times $40,000 to $45,000 is, I'm not a good mathematician, I'll put it in the $850 range. The county could receive under the proposed settlement an assignment, or if the county does not agree to the assignment, the county would in all likelihood receive nothing from that. There are other potential settlements out there that will probably go through the same mechanism, but the real controlling factor, I think, is that the state of Kansas adopted a law that allowed only the Office of the Attorney General to collect opioid proceeds to be distributed by the state, and that if you don't assign your claims to the state, then you get none of those proceeds. And it appears that the direction the main settlement negotiations are leading to would be agreements for the pharmaceutical companies to pay monies directly to the state attorney generals, effectively cutting us out of the picture. Now, the state does represent that distribution to the state or to the county of Leavenworth is their contemplation, and that is what would be provided for by the current state law. I stress that current state law. What we're really doing is putting ourselves in a position where settlement proceeds that would be received by the county would be paid over to the state, and the county would then make application to have those proceeds sent back. The risk of not doing so is that if the settlement agreements reached between the pharmaceutical companies and the various plaintiffs that later lead to the money being paid to the attorney generals, as is what happened with tobacco litigation several decades ago, Leavenworth County could be completely cut out of any receipt of those funds.
Dave, let me make sure I got this clear. We're going to, I think we need to continue going forward with it. But this money is going to end up in the state hands, and the state is going to decide if and anything the county, Leavenworth County, will receive any funds back.
Commissioner, I think that's a good summation.
And what does the money, does it have to be spent on certain things?
Yes, the statute would require, would be expended for treatment and prevention programs.
Okay.
So
Will that be based on population or formula, or how will that be based upon?
The distribution, Commissioner Stephen, is based upon application, and the eventual distribution, if you apply for it, is proportional to the population of your county and relates to the other counties of the state.
Okay.
So the state adopted special legislation to ban counties from collecting directly, so that it must flow through the state. And if we don't agree to that, then they keep all of it and give us none. So it's kind of a strong-armed approach. Not only that, in the future, they could decide that they want to change that allocation, and certainly they're keeping a portion of it.
Commissioners, I think we had always contemplated, because the Attorney General had indicated that his office intended to try to be the primary litigator on opioid litigation and the collector of settlement or judgment proceeds. That anticipation has come to pass. Much as what happened with tobacco litigation, the funds through the settlement will be structured so that it's received by the states. And as Mark informed you, under current state law, that would cut us out of the picture unless we assign our proceeds. Now, I have sent a question to our private legal counsel at Levin Law requesting their review of the email sent to me by the Office of the Attorney General and offer their comments on it. I have not received a response back. Under the current Kansas statute, if we do not exercise the assignment of our settlement proceeds to the state before January 1 of 2022, i.e. effectively the close of business tomorrow afternoon, we'd be barred from participating. What I would like to ask the board to do is to authorize either myself, the chairman, or Mark, quite frankly, in consultation together, if we receive any additional information from our private counsel, which would indicate we should not exercise the assignment of our settlement proceeds to the state, that we not do so. However, in the absence of that, I think there's every indication that if we do not assign our settlement proceeds to the state of Kansas, the county, let me put it this way, its chance of recovering any funds significantly diminishes.
You need a motion on that?
All right, let me see. Wait, never mind. Vicki, do you have anything you'd like to say on this?
Well, I don't want to risk not receiving any settlement funds. I can say that in the past, the tobacco settlement funds that came through, I know that there's a lot of negative things that are being kind of put out there right now. Leavenworth County benefited significantly because of the level of risk that we were experiencing, because I happen to have written a pretty hefty grant that benefited our county, and we really did benefit well based on risk factors. So it's kind of it's a coin toss.
Yeah. Well, if we don't do it, we don't get anything. We know that fact, so it's kind of being in a corner. Mike, do you have anything, comments on this?
The only comment I have is pretty clear. The state has kind of directed us, and this is one of those deals I think that we're going to have to basically follow the statute and go with it.
Yeah, I agree. Jeff, do you have anything?
No, I mean, I understand the theory is, if the state gets the money, then eventually it'll funnel through like our local mental health or some way it'll benefit the county. I don't like the way they're doing it, but what are you going to do?
It is what it is. Don't you have anything else?
No, sir. Not yet. Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize the senior county counselor and the county administrator to assign anything that before the end of the year on this.
Make the decision, basically.
Make the decision for the legal representative of the county.
Commissioners, if I could, Commissioner Cos said it's kind of a coin toss. I'd relate it more to if we don't assign the proceeds, we're rolling the dice, and only one side of the dice is in our favor.
Yeah, I agree. I'm seconding it. Is any other comments on it?
You need a second?
I seconded it. Okay, I'm going to start the roll call. It is what it is. Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
All right. Moving forward. Okay, Mark, did you have anything else on administrative business? Or Commissioners, y'all, anybody?
I got one.
Go ahead, Doug.
Last week at the end of our meeting, we allowed public comment for two people that weren't signed up. So we do want to ask people to sign up for public comment. And one of them comments, I was accused of violating a state statute. I'd like to know what state statute I violated.
Commissioner Smith, I'm not aware of any violations. I'm not sure what the individual speaking was referencing, but I do not think that that statement was supported by any factual basis.
Okay. Well, I just think in the future we need to stick to our own rules.
Speaking of that, I don't know if any consideration's been given to this before, but kind of uncomfortable with having people come up and speak after the agenda item. I was wondering if you have these comments before, right as the beginning, and then if they want to speak during the agenda item. But I don't see any reason why that should be tagging on, unless other county commissioners do.
Well, I think you're opening up a public hearing again.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting to, Doug. So I think everything can be said.
And if I would have engaged with that person, it would have been a public hearing.
And I'm proud of you. But let me put it like this. I don't know why we wouldn't address this as the items go on. To have this towards the end, there's really no reason. You can do all this in the beginning if you want to. Why would we want to continue doing it like that?
Just like the gentleman that spoke, we had already discussed it. He had emailed us, and we were going to take it, and it was taken care of. It didn't need to go to a public
comment. Any public comment can come in the beginning or at that agenda item where it should be addressed. Now, if other county commissioners don't feel that way, I'm fine with that. I'm just sharing my thoughts on that because I should have worked out a little bit different last time. And you live and learn. But at the same time, I don't see why we're adding something to it at the end when it's already been discussed.
There was nothing productive on it. Nothing.
Jeff, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we just need to add when we open that up at the end that it can't be about the specific item that was on the agenda already, because then it is continuing a public hearing.
Why couldn't we do this in the beginning instead of towards the end?
Well, that's what we do. Basically, they can talk about it if it's on the agenda before, and they can talk during the
but they come back
item, but not at the end.
But they come back and follow up on it.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing. Just at the end, leave the.
But we've already made a decision. The business meeting is over,
right?
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you're not saying do away with the public comment at the end. You're saying we need to, when we open the public comment, say it can't be about the agenda item.
And it should be submitted in writing before the meeting, not just the open mic thing.
Well, I guess I'm not following. Maybe I'm just. Why wouldn't you want to do the public comment in the beginning instead of the end?
We do on agenda items.
Well, why wouldn't you want to do it?
We want to stick to our schedule.
Why would you want to do it and open the door for anything else?
So, commissioners, the policy right now is that items on the agenda, we allow public comment at the beginning of the meeting for items on the agenda, limited to 3 minutes per person, up to 15 minutes. The public comment at the end of the agenda is for non-agenda items. That is basically allows people to come in and make comment on things that the board's not discussed or isn't discussing. That's the current policy. We have asked in the past that people sign up in advance and provide in writing what they're going to be speaking on. That portion, at the end of the meeting, people don't typically, because it's not an agenda item, they don't typically sign in with this is what we want to talk about. But as it is a policy of the board, just like last week, it was up to the board to decide whether or not those people were allowed to speak at the end, even though they had not signed up before the meeting. That's typically how it's handled. But we limited the comment at the beginning of the meeting. Originally, the board made that decision because we had open mic at the beginning of the meeting, and it was forcing long meetings that people who then came here who were scheduled to speak on agenda items had to wait for hours before they actually got to their agenda item. So we moved the non-agenda public comment to the end. That was the reason at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I got you.
Mr. Stephen, Mike.
Go ahead.
When I first came on the county commission 3 years ago, the policy was that the public comment was at the beginning of the meeting, and I support that. I've always supported that. But the change was made. I think we had a couple high-profile, decisions that have brought in a lot of comment. And when you get those, then you had more people coming to the public comment. But it was typically only for a period of time. And my personal view would be that we move the public comment at the beginning, because certainly from my district, when people travel from the south part of the county to come up to speak, making them sit through the entire meeting for the open comment, I've never thought that was very fair to the folks that are having to drive up. So I would be supportive of moving the entire thing up to the beginning of the meeting, like we had before. And if you want to put a limit on the amount of time, that's a different issue. You could put an overall limit on the time, but just for the folks that are coming up that want to participate in the meeting, to me, it's more fair if you put it at the beginning. That's just my
I'm certainly not trying to. And being the mayor, being a city manager at a couple of cities, I now understand what the concept was on towards the end, and I'm not saying we should change it. Maybe that one just caught me a little off guard, and I should have been more. I didn't realize that we didn't allow them to come back and say things. I'm always very cautious of not letting citizens have comments in the meeting, even though I know sometimes we can repeat ourselves and sometimes get out of control, and we have to take back control of it. But I understand now why it was done. I wasn't clear on that before. Vicki, what are your thoughts on it?
I was kind of the person that thought that having agenda items commented on at the beginning of the meeting and then all other comments at the end.
So like it is now, Vicki? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes, I
okay.
The way that it is now, but I think that we should have people let us know what they are bringing to us, and the preferences that people that have issues bring them to us in writing and give an opportunity to have conversations. You know, making appointments is a good thing as well.
Okay. Well, it looks like the stay what it is, and I'll just be a little smarter when it comes to at the end of the meetings on this. Okay, Doug, do you have anything else on that?
No, sir.
Okay. Any other commissioners have anything else? Mark and David? Then I'll move to a consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled?
I'm aware of.
I get a motion, we'll move right along.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Consent agenda.
Or consent agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any discussion? I'll start the roll call. Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
All right. All right, let's go to formal board action. Need a consider motion to approve Border 2021-4, transferring funds from the election fund to the equipment reserve election fund in the amount of $25,000.
These next board orders that we're going to look at in transferring funds, it's something that we do at the end of each year. Certainly, I did check with Mark prior to the meeting, and we will have to have a motion for each one of these board orders individually. And I do apologize ahead of time. There are several of them, and
That's okay.
Anyway, I should have put some of them together, and I didn't. So
That's all right.
That's fine.
The election fund, it's something that we do. I try to put, if there are remaining funds in the election budget, I try to, at the end of the year, put around $25,000 back for a period of 10 years or so due to the cost of election equipment. This money is only used for the purchase of election equipment, and because of the cost, it's really just something very proactive that I believe is a good idea.
Okay. Motion.
Well, then I'll, Mr. Chairman, move that we approve Board Order 2021-4, transferring election fund to equipment reserve election fund, amount of $25,000.
A motion and a second. Any more comments? Start the roll call. Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
All righty. Number 2 is consider a motion to approve Board Order 2021-5, transferring funds from the general fund to the Council on Aging in the amount of $160,000.
Council on Aging, due to some of the COVID restrictions, they were short on some revenue that they should have received through state or federal funds. And so in order to make sure that the Council on Aging has plenty of cash readily available, we have recommended the moving of the general fund, $160,000 to the Council on Aging.
Commissioners, if I could add.
Go ahead.
The reason that the funding was short from the state and federal level, last year with the CARES Act funds, they reduced what they gave because the CARES Act funds were intended to replace it. And,
Right.
Similarly, this year that we're just waiting. But rather than have them start shorter on cash than what they normally would have been, we feel like this transfer fits within what the CARES Act funds would have been used for anyways, and it's part of our carryover because of that.
Okay. Get a motion?
I move that we approve Board Order 2021-5, transfer general fund to Council on Aging, amount of $160,000.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
All right. C, consider a motion to approve Board Order 2021-6, transferring funds from the general fund to the capital road fund in the amount of $390,789.05.
This transfer is to reimburse the Road and Bridge Fund for labor, materials, and equipment relating to the 2019 Linwood tornado. We had the extra funds in our carryover, and this will, I'm not saying that we won't get that money in, the FEMA money, which will go to the general fund then, but at least this is reimbursing Road and Bridge for their cost associated with the Linwood tornado.
Well, I'll move that we approve that one for sure.
Yeah.
2021-6, transferring general fund to capital road fund in the amount of $390,789.05.
I'll second it. Any discussion?
I should have added to that, and when the FEMA money comes, put it in the road fund. But
Yeah, we'll wait on that.
it's probably a moot point.
Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Stephen?
Aye.
D, consider a motion to approve Board Order 2021-7, transferring funds from the 2006 10-year sales tax fund to the general fund in the amount of $45,140.
This is, as we did a budget amendment also for this fund, this is to close out the 2006 10-year sales tax, which did have the remaining balance of the $45,140.
Any comments?
Wish there was more to transfer.
Yeah, but then I'll make the motion to approve Board Order 2021-7, transferring funds from the 2006 10-year sales tax fund to the general fund in the amount of $45,140.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion? Sorry, Jeff Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Stephen?
Aye.
Consider a motion to approve Board Order 2021-8, transferring funds from the Sheriff's Department and General Fund to Equipment Reserve Fund in the amount of $80,000.
This pretty well is explained in the board order. The sheriff has Motorola radios that he has to purchase. This was funding that he will use in 2022, and because he had that money existing in his 2021 budget, we decided to do this transfer to Equipment Reserve for the Motorola radios.
And we've gotten the pagers, correct? The sheriff has purchased the pagers for the fire departments?
That is correct.
Okay.
Good.
And that's all paid for, and so this is just left over.
Okay.
That's good.
That's excellent.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Board Order 2021-8, transferring funds from the Sheriff's Department General Fund to Equipment Reserve for an amount of $80,000.
Second it. Motion second. Any discussion? I'll start the roll call. Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Stephen?
Aye.
Okay. Consider a motion to approve Board Order 2021-9, transferring funds from the Solid Waste Operating Fund to the Capital Improvement Fund in the amount of $145,000.
This was additional funds that Solid Waste had collected throughout the year. They are doing a lot of work at the transfer station. So this will be designated for a new scale house, wiring, asphalt, concrete on some work that they're currently doing to finish up that project, and new concrete work that the Solid Waste Department would like to do, to help the general public out.
Yeah, that's what it's about. You're right.
Right. And there was nothing done for years
That's
out
right.
there.
That's right.
This should have been an ongoing, but we're going to get caught up.
Yeah, we're moving in the right direction.
Places really looks nice, I think.
Yeah, it does. It does.
User friendly. I'll move that we approve Board Order 2021-9, transferring funds from solid waste to the Capital Improvement Fund in the amount of $145,000.
I'll second it. Motion is second. Any more discussion? I'll start the roll call. Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
All right. G, consider a motion to approve Board Order 2021-10, transferring funds from Sewer District Number 5 to General Fund Special Building and Maintenance in the amount of $8,624.
I'm going to talk about the next three board orders to move things along. The next three board orders are from the different sewer districts, 5, 2, and 1. We budgeted for the building maintenance department into the sewer districts for the mowing and general work out there. And so this is just transferring the funds that were already budgeted for the courthouse building maintenance crew.
So it will be all going back to the patrons of the sewer districts?
Yes.
Okay. That's the only question I had, because it's collected for that. But we shouldn't be subsidizing it either, the rest of the taxpayers. So this seems only fair to me.
I agree. Any more discussion on that? Okay. So one, Jeff?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Board Order 21-10, transferring funds from Sewer District 5 to the General Fund, amount of $8,624.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass Board Order 2021-11, transferring funds from Sewer District Number 2 to the General Fund, amount of $12,784.
It'd be special building maintenance.
Special building.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass Board Order 21-12, transferring funds from Sewer District Number 1 to General Fund Special Building and Maintenance, amount of $15,456.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner
Aye.
Smith? Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
Moving right along. J, consider a motion to approve Board Order 2021-13, transferring funds from the Road and Bridge Fund to the Capital Road Fund in the amount of $200,000.
This is a board order that we also try to do at the end of each year. There was around a little over $200,000, probably $350,000 left in Road and Bridge's budget authority, which proves right there that that is a very tight budget. But we did have the around $200,000 that we thought that could be transferred to the Capitol Road so that an additional project could be worked on in future years.
It is a very tight budget, because if it would have started snowing at the end of October and carried on up, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
That's true.
That is correct. The
I
way
mean,
it
it's
has
tight.
been.
I wish we had some sort of a emergency snow removal fund they could tap to take their budget down a little lower. But
Yeah, I mean, this just
it's
proves.
stressful toward the end of the year.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. If there would have been
Not
some
for
bad
me.
weather, there would not have been
Yeah.
a transfer able to be made.
Yeah, we've had some pretty close years.
Yeah. Weather. Okay.
I move that we approve Board Order 2021-13, transferring road and bridge funds to Capital Road Fund in the amount of $200,000.
Second.
I'll second. Did you second it, Jim?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. Doug?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
that there was so many of
That's,
them.
hey,
It's a good problem to have.
at least there was money to carry over.
That's
right.
exactly right. So I appreciate it. Becky will hand you these to sign, so we don't have to take the time during the meeting, and I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. This bill, consider a motion to award the design, engineering, and construction engineering of the ST-100 project to Finney and Turnip Seed. I got you. Bill?
Commissioners, today for your consideration is the acceptance of the design and construction engineering services for the ST-100 bridge replacement project. It is located on Fairmount Road. It is the project that we did receive grant funding for, so this is an 80-20 match funding proposal. We did have a selection committee hearing. We received 3 proposals on the project. It was determined to select Finney and Turnip Seed for these services, and look forward to moving this project along. We are trying to fast track this project. KDOT did kind of send out their notices a little bit later than usual, and so in order to get this project done on schedule with KDOT's schedule that they provided us, we need to make up about 3 months. And so by having the selection committee last week and moving this forward in a 3-week time frame, we have effectively made up one of those months currently. And so we're going to try to make up the other 2 through the design services. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Commissioners?
We need 2 bridges a year. And this is my area, so I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve a motion to award the design, engineering, and construction engineering of the ST-100 bridge project to Finney and Turnip Seed.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
All right, I like seeing that stuff. Next, consider a motion to accept the state fiscal year 2022 local bridge program for E48 bridge replacement on 255th Street. Good, Bill.
Today, for your consideration, Commissioners, we have received a grant for the replacement of a local bridge within Leavenworth County. This is a very specific grant program that provides funding for bridges less than 50 feet and with less than 50 vehicles a day on the roadway. This specific bridge is E48, located on 255th Street. It is north of K192 Highway in Easton Township. The current structure is an 8-ton bridge. The funding for this is 90-10 up to $150,000. With the current price of steel going up the way it has been in the recent months, or over the last 6 to 9 months, we will probably exceed that $150,000 number. Based upon the construction cost of K45, I would expect this project to come in somewhere around $190,000. So we would be responsible for that $40,000 threshold. These projects are specifically intended to use KDOT low-cost bridge structures for replacement, simple steel structures. Much like K45, this is going to be a very similar process, and hopefully we receive good competitive funding. We do have some utilities in the area. Initial indications are they want this constructed by October of next year, of 2022. I don't know how realistic that is on a statewide perspective, but we are going to do everything that we can to meet that threshold of a 10-month replacement cycle.
You ready for a motion?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we pass motion for E48 bridge replacement on 255th Street. Is there a dollar amount for us?
No, it's just a match fund.
Just matching?
Right now, yeah. I'll second that. Motion is second. Any discussion? Mr. Culberson?
Aye.
Mr. Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Stephen?
Aye.
All right. Okay, thank you, Bill.
All right, thanks.
Next.
Thanks, Bill.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, I need to consider a motion to approve Resolution 2021-58, a rezoning from RR5 to RR2.5 located at 28181 270th Street.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is a request to approve Resolution 21-58. This is a request to rezone 2.5 acres in 2.5 acre zoning district. Public Works Department has made the applicant aware that they will have to have a shared driveway if they plat this. Staff is in support of this. The Planning Commission voted 7-0. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think it's.
I move that we approve Resolution 2021-58, a rezoning of R5 to R2.5 at 28181 207th Street.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on this item? None. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Mike Stephen?
Aye.
All right. Next one, consider a motion to approve Resolution 2021-59, a text amendment to Articles 3.27C and 41 of the 2006 Leavenworth County Zoning and Subdivision Regulations.
Mr. Chairman, this is a text amendment to clean up our regulations. We're actually in the process of doing several of these. This will bring our regulations into exact conformance with the existing access management policies so that those two items mirror one another. It just cleans up some issues, some wording and such to make things more black and white. The Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval.
Okay.
I had a question on the frontage road spacing. It says minimum 300 feet from railroad right-of-ways and minimum 600 feet from highways. Like if you had a frontage road, that's going to have to be 600 feet back?
No, the
Okay.
driveway spacing.
Okay,
Sorry, yeah.
okay. All right. That's, and then the lot to depth ratios changed, or stayed the same. Am I correct on that?
Correct. That is a different text amendment that we
Okay.
need to bring forward.
Oh, I know. When we were talking about parcels that were closer than 105 feet, and they're damaged, are they won't have a variance, they'll do a boundary line adjustment?
Can you
Parcels that are close, that are prior to 1971 or whenever it was, we've had several of them at their house either burned or got destroyed and they were non-compliant, and we just did the variance, correct, for that?
Correct. So we have a resolution, Commissioner, that states that those parcels are entitled to be rebuilt. They do need to seek a variance. We will still issue the building permit prior to the variance being granted, but just so that everything is wrapped up nice and tight and done appropriately, we do require the variance if it doesn't meet the regulations.
Okay, so we're the boundary line adjustment part of that?
Well, the boundary line adjustment would not fix a structure being in the incorrect correct spot. A boundary line, I guess it potentially could if it was a side lot line, but a boundary line adjustment would be changing the outer perimeter of a lot, which may not be feasible in many situations.
Well, it just said boundary line adjustment provided the following meets criteria. Okay, and it was but as long as these folks that we've been collecting their taxes from can build back, that's all I care about.
Yeah, we passed a resolution in 2017 that took care of many of those issues.
And then we got. I'm sorry, I'm taking
Don't
so
go
much
right
time,
ahead.
but I just want some clarification. Then it was on. Let's see.
Questions?
Car restorations. The act of restoring a car by means of molding, welding, blah, blah, blah. It's Resolution 2009. It's on the list of like campground, camp unit, child care facilities.
Correct, in Article 19.
Mm-hmm. So how's that different than...
So, Commissioner, that is... Can you tell me what page you're on? Because those are not changes that we're proposing right now.
All right. Well, I just read through all of it. I don't have a life. But
You sound like me, Doug.
all right.
We're good?
There is one part in there about planting trees in the
Planned unit.
in a planned unit. So who maintains these trees?
So the
Who takes care of these trees?
The property owner would be required to maintain.
Even if they're in the right of way?
If they're in the right of way, that would be a public works. If
We don't want them in the right of way, though.
they should not be in the right of way, correct?
Okay. Because I think
It's for like parking lot shading and such, which would be private.
Okay.
We don't want that.
No. Oh, we need to get rid of all the trees in the right of way, and the people that think they're theirs, we should transfer ownership to them and allow them to be responsible for any obstruction in the right of way, or when it falls in the middle of the night, guess who they call?
Yep.
So,
Been there, done that.
I'm not a tree lover. All right.
Okay. Anything else, Doug?
No, sir, that's it.
Okay. Jeff, do you have anything on this?
I just have more of a general question
Okay.
overall. So the definition of the roads themselves, like collector, arterial, residential, how do we address that definition periodically? Because, I mean, I was involved when we first labeled all these, and we went by traffic counts back then. So is there like a time frame, or we'd address it?
That would be a question for Public Works.
Yeah.
Who just happens to be right
Sorry.
behind you?
So I didn't know if there's like
Go ahead, Bill.
a plan.
So our current plan is within the next week or so is to produce. We've been working quite a bit over the last several months to try to produce a low volume, high volume map that shows exactly how our road classifications are laid out in the county. There is a threshold of 1,000 vehicles a day that's referenced multiple times throughout the subdivision regulations and throughout the spacing requirement regulations. And so we are in the process of updating that map, and that map will show all of the collector, arterial, and local roadways here in the county, as well as the high volume, low volume roadways that are over 1,000 vehicles a day. And so once that gets solidified and we have good traffic count data to support those numbers, which I think we have the map completed, but we had several areas that we wanted to go out and do a couple other check locations where there was some inconsistencies, unknown variables, maybe malfunction in the counting equipment, or a construction project influenced the traffic counts because there was some irregularities. There was probably 7 or 8 of those locations that we wanted to verify before we produced that map. So when that map is produced over the next week or two, then I think we need to take a review of that map and see where some of these make sense and where some of these don't make sense, because we do have some roadways with low traffic counts that are gravel. They're considered collectors, where we have some that are blacktops that through development and through improvements to the roadways have a much higher traffic count that may be considered an arterial. And so if we want to take a look at that, we'd be open to having a work session to review that at any time.
That's what brought it
I
up.
think that we do have to send some of that information on from our local jurisdiction onto the Mid-America Regional Council if we are to change some of the RIP classifications.
That's exactly what I wanted.
All right.
Anything else, Jeff?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Like every 2 years? Would we be addressing this every 2 years?
There really isn't any language that I've seen that has a requirement. We could address it every 2 years. We could address it once a year as part of just an annual review process. I think it would be appropriate. We could bring it up as part of the annual hard surfacing program. That'd be a good opportunity when we're up here once a year on an annual basis to try to maybe take a look at these things.
There you go. Vicki, do you have anything on this? Any concerns?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I've just been listening. I'm good.
Okay,
Thanks, Bill.
thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody will make a motion?
Okay. Let's see. That would be.
I can do it, Jesse.
Mr. Chairman, approve resolution 2021-59, a text amendment to Articles 3, 2, 7C, and 41 of the 2006 Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations.
Second. Motion is second. Any more discussion? Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Cos?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
All righty, very good. All right, consider a motion to approve Resolution 2021-60, a renewal of special use permit for Happy Trails Kennel located at 21918 227th Street.
Mr. Chairman, this is a request to approve 21-60. It's a request to renew a special use permit for a dog kennel that has had 0 complaints in its time frame. The Planning Commission requested that we amend it to be approved for a period of 10 years as opposed to 5, and they also requested that the number of dogs be increased to 20, which is a standard condition across all conditions, or across all kennel special use permits. The Planning Commission recommended 7-0 to recommend approval. I will answer any questions that you may have.
Okay. Questions? Concerns? I don't see any complaints on it, so this is Mike's area, I believe.
Yes, it is.
Mike, you want to make the motion, or you want us to do it?
I'll have you make a motion. I'll tell you what, this is a great business. It's a great family. They're doing a great job. It's no complaints. This is the kind of thing we want to keep going in our county.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-60, renewal of a special use permit for Happy Trails Kennel located at 21918 227th Street.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
I have.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So, I know we pretty much adopted changing these from 5 to 10 years, but I'm leery about doing that from seeing changes in the conditions. So the number of dogs going up, to me, is like a change in the condition. I'm not saying I'm against the SUP at all. I'm just saying I think we need to be careful if we're going to change some of the conditions, giving them an extension on the time. So I would think if we're leaving the conditions the same, I don't have a problem with 10 years.
Okay.
But if we're increasing the number of dogs, I think we need to leave it at 5 years.
This Commissioner Stephen has a question for Mark.
Thought you might.
Yeah, Mark, when the new policy that you're developing on the SUP comes into effect, this will be a perpetual SUP as long as there's other claims, correct?
Yes, Commissioner, what you're referring to is that there would be a difference between SUPs and temporary SUPs. This would be considered an SUP, which is basically they come in they make application, the board reviews it and approves it through the process, and then as long as there are no complaints or issues brought forward, it would just continue on. It wouldn't be like a 5-year, 10-year. It would just be a SUP. Temporary SUPs would be utilized for one-offs, maybe special events, or for facilities we're granting time to get into compliance with code, like maybe moving their business to an industrial area or something like that. So, yes, this would be an example of one that would be a perpetual SUP.
Okay, so to address Commissioner Culberson's concern, no matter if we put 5 or 10, when the new policy goes into effect, it will become perpetual.
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm just trying to bring to light that I think we need to be careful if we are changing conditions on the time frames. Do you have something, Dave?
David, go ahead.
Commissioner Culbertson, members of the commission, when you put conditions on a special use permit, some of them are very, very specific, but I think there's an underlying condition, and we can spell it out in future special use permits. Shall not allow a public nuisance to exist on the property. Because by nature of the operations, it could start off being rather innocuous, and through some change, which the county is hard pressed to find because we don't have inspectors, begins to create a nuisance to the neighborhood. In that case, one, we rely upon neighborhood complaints, quite frankly, to know about it. But secondly, any private property owner in the immediate area of that would have a private cause of action against the holder. Generally, you are not supposed to create public nuisances. And I'll use the example of dogs, and I love dogs, have several myself. If I had a kennel and went from 10 dogs to 40 dogs, the volume is going to change. And in that case, I might have crossed the threshold from being a permissible use to a public nuisance, in which case action could be taken.
Okay. And I understand this has no protests or complaints from any of the neighbors, correct? So that was the only issue I wanted to bring up.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, any other more? We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Commissioner Culberson?
Aye.
Commissioner Connors?
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
All right, very good. Jeff, those are good questions, though. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I guess we're getting ready to discuss submittals for the Regional Transportation Capital Improvement Plan Study. Come on back up.
Today, for your discussion, Commissioners, we have your consideration for the Regional Transportation Capital Improvement Plan engineering firm selection. We did receive 5 proposals. It was very competitive on this go-around, so I think that resubmittal of the RFP or RFQ that went out was very successful in comparison to the one submittal that we did receive last time. Turnout was really well. Turned out really well. All these firms are large firms with good reputations, which also made the selection process very competitive. I'd like to start. We did review all 5 of these. I'd start with a little bit of a summary of these. Different firms highlighted different factors and offered a little bit of a different scope of services throughout the 5 different proposals. I think all of them warrant review with consideration being taken for each one. I did highlight or focus in on 2 of the proposals as the staff narrowed down consideration for making a recommendation here today for the Board of County Commissioners. With that, I'd give you the opportunity to ask any questions before I review that, or would you like me to proceed with staff recommendations and basis of those recommendations?
Commissioners, I'm ready to go forward.
I'm ready to go.
Let's go ahead, Bill.
All right. So I narrowed it down to 2 selections. I did rate, as well as staff, Kimley Horn as the top selection choice based on a few of the different aspects of their proposal that set them aside from some of the other applications. They did not propose on the first proposal, as you guys are aware of. That was due to, in part, because of one of their senior project managers having a connection with the former connection with Leavenworth County through our engineering consultant at Olson. After it was sent out to the other firms, and everyone had an opportunity to submit the first time, and we did send it back out, they felt, and I agree with this, their statements that they had no more of a competitive advantage than any other firm because everybody had the opportunity to review the RFP once, and then this was the second go-around. Some of the items that I believe set them aside from other proposals was their transparent process of rating projects and their focus on different funding mechanisms. They set aside a criteria development, and so not only would they be willing to prioritize the projects, update the cost estimates, they would also identify which project may meet federal criteria, MARC criteria, KDOT Ike program criteria, and local criteria for funding throughout the process. There are different funding streams through the roads program, through the MARC, different application processes where projects could receive funding, and not every project necessarily meets each one of those funding mechanisms. And so if you have a project that may not be the number one priority of the jurisdiction, but meets 95% of the scoring criteria for a certain grant that may be out there through the stimulus program or through some other federal program, it could be an opportunity for the local jurisdictions to work with KDOT to apply for that funding because it is available. So I think they took an approach of we will look at your priorities and also how your priorities, maybe your top 4 or 5 projects, fit into these different funding mechanisms, which I thought was a bit of a unique perspective of, yes, we will prioritize these, but we also understand that something is better than nothing when it comes to infrastructure improvements, and so you can't put a square peg through a round hole. Sometimes you may have a project that you really want, but it doesn't fit the criteria of the funding mechanisms out there. The other aspect that I think that they offered was their scoring matrix. It allowed for an interactive online scoring matrix that allowed each entity to prioritize their projects in a manner that they would like to see them rated as. It also gave different aspects of economic development versus connectivity, multimodal, safety improvements. So what is it that our jurisdiction would like to see be the top priority? And so with that, it took some of the human analysis out of the situation where one person's priority could be weighted more heavily than another person's priority. I think also worth noting is they're currently working on a transportation study with Wyandotte County. It can be viewed as advantageous because it's a different type of study, not a capital improvement plan study, but it could open those discussion avenues with neighboring jurisdictions for some of our roads that, be it K7 or K5, or even improvements along the I-70 corridor that would be mutually beneficial for both entities. So it opens that dialogue between both jurisdictions with these concurrent studies. The more support that we could get for a project, if it was Leavenworth County and all of the 4 major cities in conjunction with the unified government, I believe that would be very beneficial for us in order to move a project forward with KDOT or the Mid-America Regional Council. Secondly, in a close second, we had PEC. PEC had a very strong proposal. They highlighted many factors. They also had a online scoring matrix that provided some it was more of a human interaction. They input the data into the scoring matrix so it could be reviewed after the fact. They were also involved heavily in the Sedgwick County, Wichita capital improvement plan that was done multi-jurisdictionally with, I believe, also the city of Derby. That was extremely successful with receiving Ike funding and to get Kellogg Road extended to the east and the outer loop connected around the city of Wichita, specifically in the northern corridors. And so their project manager on that specific project that was cited as the example that we needed to follow here locally is the project manager within this proposal. And so that is a huge advantage working with the current administration if that person was on our team and had that experience. With that, I'll stop. I would be comfortable with either of these selections. To be quite honest, moving forward, with the board's input here today, I'm open to discussing any of the proposals, the three remaining. But
what was the name of the first one?
The first one was Kimley Horn. The second one was PEC.
Yeah, I'm familiar with PEC.
Each firm had partnered, each engineering firm had partnered with a different firm, most specifically to work on the public outreach. And so there are some subcontractors that were listed by each firm that offered different public outreach services and would help with the public hearing.
Where's their office out of?
Kimley Horn?
Yeah.
They're national, but they have an office in Kansas City.
Kansas City, okay.
Downtown.
Commissioners, just a reminder on this process, the cities are involved with this as well as KDOT and the county. So this will be our recommendation. It is possible that through priorities, maybe our recommendation doesn't receive the top vote out of the group, but we just wanted to get this today to make sure that what Bill took to that committee was what the Board of County Commissioners was comfortable with.
And to add to that, I think that why I wanted to present two firms here today is if we could get the four cities, KDOT, the Mid-America Regional Council, and the Port Authority to at least have one firm that is in everyone's top two, or at least one firm that everyone's comfortable with.
Right.
I think that would be beneficial moving forward.
Okay.
I hate to select a firm from our bottom three if we can avoid doing so.
Okay.
You feel there's quite a bit of advantage of a firm that's working with Wyandotte County being they join right there with us on our study, because let's face it, the eastern part of our county is what we're talking about pretty much.
I thought it was an advantage. They're working on more of a multimodal type study that would look at public transportation as well as interstate travel, connecting Bonner Springs over in the western portions of their county and to where their jobs are. And so I think that it's not a competitive project to say where they're going to be proposing a huge infrastructure plan, but it also allows us to maybe piggyback on some of the stuff that we.
That's what I was thinking. They would at least have the information.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Jeff?
I just wanted to say these are the two that I picked, two out of the group that we got, that we received bids from. So either one of these I like. I do not like.
Right.
The other.
Vicki? Any comments?
I'm with Bill's recommendation, anything that Bill wants to move forward, I think that he's right. We need to try to make sure that he tries to put something forward that all the other entities can buy into as well.
Okay. Mike?
I guess I have a question for Bill. Bill, of the two hot contenders here, Kimberly Horn and the other one. Which one gives the governing body more input on elevation of projects?
I think that both of them, they take a slightly different approach to the prioritization of projects, but they both allow the governing entities to have their input into the criteria that would rate the projects. So I think either would be beneficial. Kimberly Horn also offered a public-facing website to update the public and move through the public hearing process that would be associated with this type of a study, and so that information could be out there throughout the project. I'm sure that's something that could also be negotiated or required of PEC as part of their proposal if we come to a decision as a selection committee.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike.
That sounds good to me to have that component.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I support Bill, whatever your recommendation is.
So, Bill, are you looking for one from us today?
I would say that just approval of the general, I don't think we need a motion necessarily, but just a consensus moving forward, which sounds like we may have, of our top priority or our top choice being Kimberly Horn, with our secondary choice being PEC, but being
That's mine.
Comfortable with either firm.
Yeah. Jeff?
Exactly.
I've got Horn also. And
Right.
then Doug. Vicky?
I agree.
Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for all the hard work going into this.
Hey, this is Commissioner Stephen. I have one question before you get up there, Bill.
Yep.
On the mega project application letter that you received there, and I was reading that, we have to have a buy-in from a lot of different groups in order to move forward on the application process. So what would be our next step if, if we wanted to be able to access those funds or potentially compete for those funds?
Well, I think we need to concurrently do two things. We need to continue to watch for what language comes out from the federal government setting the criteria for those projects. And then we also need to probably get some sort of work session or meeting where we invite some of these other entities or have a couple commissioners represent the board, and we need to reach out to elected officials at the state level and the local level and try to get the support from KDOT, because without KDOT and probably without MoDOT, moving forward with that application would be a pretty uphill battle. Because I believe that funding would be something that the state would have to be a part of that application process.
Okay, I guess, and this is to my fellow commissioners, can we authorize Bill to kind of start setting that up? Do we need a motion for that, or do that just be consensus?
Are we getting ahead of ourselves?
Well, I think that one of the issues is here is we haven't identified a project that would be a bigger project, the board. So I think that would be the first step, and that's where I think Bill's saying we need the community input. So while we may have in mind what we would like to see as a project, I think we need to make sure that the board, at least the majority of the board, is okay with that, and then try to get the communities on board, and then the MoDOT, KDOT, if those two entities would be involved, which I would assume they would be for a mega project. And I think the committee that we have in place right now that's reviewing, actually the proposals Bill just brought forward, would be maybe the avenue for trying to build some of that support. Because I think all the players are involved.
Go ahead, Vicki.
Yeah, I agree with what Mark is saying, but I think that we have a really good committee that we have. Let's keep moving forward with that, and then I think that, like Commissioner Stevens said, I think that there's a pretty good consensus that we just let Bill judgment as to how we move forward with all of the projects.
Okay. Anything else? I'm good with that. Any other comments on this? If not, then those are marching orders. Good to go.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. A lot of hard work going into that from everybody. Okay, next we have, I guess, us. Mark, you have anything else? David, you have anything?
Nothing.
Commissioner Culberson? Mr. Cos? You too, Vicki. I have nothing. Doug?
I attended Fairmount Township meeting last Thursday, and then on the 12th of January, the Southern Leavenworth County Leadership class will be at the courthouse and at the county offices. I didn't know if Commissioner Stevens, will you be available that day?
Yeah.
At the 12th at 3:30. So if you and I take care of that, will that be okay?
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
All right.
if one of you can't make it, I presented that thing for years. I'd be glad to step in. But
All right.
just let me know.
All right. All right. Well, that's all I had. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Doug. Mike, do you have anything in the group?
No, just happy New Year to everybody, and I appreciate you keeping my mother in your prayers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Birthday.
Okay. If I get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Adjourn. Commissioner Cos? Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Stephen?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.